Hello, everyone. Welcome to the last edition of the 2021 sneak peek for the Boutique Hotel Investment Conference by BLLA. We are so excited you can join us on this Friday afternoon, depending on where you are in the world. I'm Ariella. I am the partner and COO over at BLLA and also the lead producer for all of our conferences. I want to say thank you to our sponsors for the sneak peek, World Cinema, as well as Lutron Electronics. Really quickly, I know a lot of you are here. Well, I know you're all here to hear John, but also you may be interested about this conference coming up June 2nd to 3rd. It's the original investment conference for boutique hotels. We've been hosting this since 2013. It started as a way to prove to the industry that boutique hotels were profitable, but we all know that they are. So no need to prove. We're just all about new strategies and where we're headed in the future. A lot of it is very exclusive content that you are not hearing at other hotel investment conferences. Again, we've been producing this for 9 years. We're normally the first Wednesday of June in New York City at the Time Center, but we'll be digital this year, keeping it safe, but we have a lot of engagement opportunities. 12 years since the start of the boutique hotel movement. So who is this conference for? Those involved in hotels, so owners, developers, investors, managers, executives, operators, all of the above. And also vendors and suppliers, so technology, design, architecture, real estate, finance, legal, everyone that is somehow involved with boutique hotel investment. We have 50 sessions, from presentations to mentorship circles to case studies to virtual speed dating. And we now have 90, yes, you heard me, 90 speakers, all key experts in boutique hotel investment, from successful hoteliers to banks to lenders, asset managers, operators. It's a really great group of leaders in our sector. Our keynote speaker is Nicholas Clayton, the CEO of Capella Group. Ian Schrager back for the 6th or 7th time, I can't remember. He'll do his encore. Hilda Perez Alvarado of JLL, as well as Andrew Zobler of Seidel Group. We have, out of the 60 agenda topics, we have really great things: strategies of procurement, creative debt financing, rebuilding amid a pandemic, development, looking at the legal side, how to scale a boutique hotel collection authentically, food and beverage, optimizing your assets. We have it all. So it's all about connection. So messaging capabilities, mentorship sessions, a lot of networking time. Education, of course, it's a 360 perspective on boutique hotel investment. Whether you've been in it forever or are new to it, we have content for everyone. Also, I think about 7 years ago, we were dubbed, this is where deals happen. And that's what we really are emphasizing here. We've strategized ways for deals to happen. We also have Present Your Project. So if you are looking at new opportunities that you have not seen before, we have many hotel projects where they're going to have presentations. They are looking for investors or partners, and you'll get a really cool glimpse as to what's coming for the future. So it's all about financing, operations, ownership. And now that you know a little bit about the conference, you can go to BLLAevents.com. You can also reach out to me at info@BLLAevents.com and we'll get right back to you. But why you're really all here today, I am so thrilled to welcome back John Bortz, the founder and CEO of Pebblebrook Hotel Trust. He has Jennifer Barnwell on his team that will be speaking at the conference, Tom Fisher, the Chief Investment Officer, and Ray Marks, the Chief Financial Officer. His team is amazing. We're now so excited to have John speaking here. He'll be interviewed by Omar Palacios. He sits on the board of advisors for BLLA, and he is the COO, CFO, and partner over at GLO Capital. And then there's me, Ariella Kratine, again, I'm partner and COO at BLLA. Now, Omar, I'm going to give you the stage because I know you have some amazing questions to ask John. So I'm going to leave it to you guys.
Thank you, Ariella, and I will do my best. I know that John is typically incredibly well prepared, so I'm going to let him be the star and let him do most of the talking as much as we can. So John, couple of things that I wanted to focus in on, maybe some big picture items first. But here we are. It's been a year since COVID, more than a year. We're starting to bounce back. There's obviously some good, positive green shoots that are out there. Vaccination rates in the country have accelerated, and we're seeing the beginning of the bounce back. But as you think about what's happened in the industry, and more specifically what you've done in your own portfolio, what changes that have been implemented in your hotels do you think are going to stick and are going to be permanent ones going forward?
Hey, thanks, Omar. And I was looking at all those pictures of all the people upcoming, and I noticed I need to upgrade my fashion photo because everybody on there looks so cool. And of course, maybe it's because I'm past my prime, but I might need to work on that. That's one thing right there. But I think of course, we've done a lot of things we never want to do again. I was talking to an investor last night. We released our quarterly earnings after the close yesterday, and they were asking about the reopenings of our hotels. And I said, I hope this is the last time in my life that I ever have to talk about open and closed hotels, because we're in the business to run hotels, not to have them be closed. There's so many things we've done that I think will stick. I've been through quite a few cycles. I know you've been through a few as well. And necessity is the mother of invention. And as much as that's a cliche, you do what you have to do, and then you learn from it. And a lot of times the things you do are the way you should be operating on a go-forward basis, or you should be laying space out, or you should be concepting. But a few that come to mind, a lot more cross-training in our hotels. So people who will be able to do multiple jobs and who will have, frankly, they'll have a better career path, and we'll have more efficiency in our hotels. Particularly, we have the extreme of ups and downs right now, right? A lot of our properties are, they may run in the single digits or low in the teens on the weekdays, and on the weekends they could run 50, 60, 80%. And so we have a lot of ups and downs from a staffing perspective. And I think being able to staff for the down periods in particular is something we've learned. We can leave rooms vacant and unclean because they're not going to be occupied for another 4 or 5 days. We can run our properties more like B&Bs, particularly our smaller boutiques within the portfolio, where somebody might check you in, they might walk you up to your room, they might park your car, they might bring up in-room dining. So we're going to see a lot of that that sticks, I think. More use of technology. So clearly, mobile check-in, mobile key, customer communication technology, which I think many of these things were already happening, but these events tend to accelerate the adoption, right, of the use of these items. And we've started rebranding in-room dining, and we don't call it that in many hotels anymore. We call it Omar's Delivery, or whatever catchy branding might work, because the old in-room dining branding has been associated with generally fairly mediocre experience, and people have gotten used to ordering delivery on their phones. And so we're using more apps. You can just order, you can go down and pick it up if you want. So we got curbside pickup in the lobby, or you can have it brought to your room on a knock and drop scenario. So, picking up on how the customer is evolving and what they believe luxury is, or what they believe convenience is versus where it was before. A couple other things I'll mention. where we have multiple properties in a market, we're doing more clustering. We may have an entire executive team that oversees 2 properties. We have that in multiple cases in San Francisco, in LA, in DC. And what it's allowed us to do is, frankly, attract higher quality and caliber people who get paid more, but it's still more efficient for us in terms of doing that at the GM level, director of sales and marketing, full sales teams, accounting, HR, but yet it's still all on premises. So maybe at one of the properties and they go back and forth between the 2. So I think those efficiencies will stay. You know, the use of bodegas, we like that terminology much better than grab and go. But I'm not sure many of our hotels that had mini bars are going to have them in the future. We were moving a little bit away from that with these Stockwell machines that had come out that you could put in the hallway or at the foyer, and people could get the same things out of the machine as they got in the mini bar, and you use your key and it goes right to your bill, and it's easier. Or they just come down to the lobby, they go to the bodega, they get what they want, they pay for it at the front desk, or they can pay for it with an app or a QR code, and it goes right to their right to their bill. Use of QR codes. We have folks checking out now with QR codes, menus, elimination of all the in-room junk, collateral. You know, you can change it by the minute. It's way better for the customer. They can have it when they're with them all the time on their phone, basically, and you can update it. You know, restaurant has availability. You know, come down now, whatever it might be. So, I mean, I got a long list of these things that I could talk about, but I think all of these downturns tend to be extremely helpful in the long-term evolution of the industry.
Well, you touched on a couple of things, and I'm nodding a lot because I've kind of had to deal with some of the same issues that you just kind of identified, and how we're all dealing with it. So it's again, the more things change, the more they say that stay the same to some degree, because we're all trying to do the same things to a degree. But I think 2 things that you noted that I felt are key points. First up, on clustering and staffing and trying to optimize the staffing situation. You got a front of the house and a back of the house situation to deal with. I think that one of the things that we're really struggling with right now in the industry is, as we're ramping back up, there seems to be a lack of availability of workers. And I'm going to ask you the magic question. I mean, what's the solution? Maybe you do know the answer to that. If you do, I'd be great. But I feel like we're all struggling with this question, and it's all over the place. I mean, it's housekeeping, it's food and beverage, it's even back of the house in terms of having qualified people that can do the work and close the books on time. So curious to hear how you're feeling about that situation.
Yeah. So, I mean, this is, it's wow, you know, first we have a demand crisis, and now we have a labor crisis. And of course, the oxymoron here is that, you know, as we're getting the demand back, we have workers who we can't get back, or who choosing not to come back, and we're having trouble servicing the demand when we get it at our hotels. So I'm actively involved with our industry association, AHLA, and happen to have been chairman last year and chairman emeritus this year. But as an officer, I'm involved in a lot of these conversations about industry issues. And we're not just about advocacy, we're about safety, we're about, you know, stopping trafficking, we're about worker safety and personal safety devices. And the topic of the day we've had 5 calls on in the last 2 weeks is labor, labor shortage. Yet we have 20 million people who are still out of a job, and millions in our own industry who are still out. So we've had a lot of conversations about what we can do. And as an industry, we are likely going to do a PR campaign just to let people know that we have jobs. I mean, pretty much any hotel in the country, there's an open position today. But that's a broad-based approach. So some of the ideas we've heard that we're accumulating for the benefit of the industry, and there's some resources at AHLA if you're a member that you can tap into. But going to the universities. So we think the vast majority of this issue is temporal. That we have a bunch of issues keeping people from coming back to work, and they're at home. So that includes the enhanced unemployment insurance, which will run out in September. Along with that comes free COBRA, so health insurance. By the way, it's non-taxable income, so that's better than getting the same amount of money on a taxable basis. You've got childcare issues because kids are not back in school physically in many places around the country. You also have people who have medical conditions, people who still have fear of the virus. Maybe they even have a fear of getting vaccinated. And so we think a lot of those issues, Omar, are temporary. We think schools will be back in September if we continue on this positive path from a health perspective. We think as the unemployment insurance runs out, people need income. They're going to come back to work. And we think as the case counts continue to go down or people get vaccinated and they're playing their part, then I think those people will want to come back to work in the fall, which we hope is just in time for a resurgence in business travel. In the meantime, we're seeing people go to universities. If it's a summer issue, you've got a huge number of people looking for summer jobs. People who are graduated their freshman, sophomore, junior year, who might have an interest in hospitality in general. They can come work at a hotel. They can make beds part of the time. They can ghost and follow managers another part of the time. So looking at places like that, looking at, there's some F&B companies like Quick, temporary employment firms. This gig economy, you got a lot of people who, don't want to sign up for a full-time job, but they can work 10 or 20 hours a week. And look, that's the way our business works anyway, in a lot of cases, right? We need people on call available for these ups and downs. So, we've brought back HR people, even though many of their traditional HR activities are, fairly minimal right now, but we brought them back because we really need them to focus all their time on hiring, including going to non-traditional places, go to recruiting firms that look for retail people, hospitality, similar business, similar attributes, similar skill set in many cases, to try to bring those people in to the hotel industry.
That's highly encouraging, and I think the one thing that I'm sensing is that there's a temporary element to what's going on that hopefully over time continues to just abate as the benefits roll off and people have to come back to work and things normalize. So I share that same point of view, and I'm hoping that we're going to see some more normalcy as in time. It's the question of how you manage it here and now, which I'm sure we're all battling. I think that one thing that you mentioned, and I think it's interesting, you talked about bodegas and kind of where we are as an industry potentially with service standards. I think that one of the things that I'd love to hear your view as the largest owner of independent hotels, and with many lifestyle properties in your portfolio that I think resonate with some of our members here. What do you think the model is going to look like? Because my own impression, and we've had to pivot that way, is we have this enhanced select service model at the moment. That wasn't what we kind of signed up for when we thought these properties were going to be experiences. So do you see that also kind of slowly waning in the distance, or is that really what these hotels will look like going forward?
No, I think that goes away. I think it's what we do in the middle of a pandemic is not really what we want to do as a society and as individuals. And, we adapt. But so I sort of draw from an experience of having gone through a lot of cycles and hearing all the discussion and debate during cycles and how people are predicting that things will be so different on the other side. I mean, you hear this in how people are going to work and I tend to think that life, business, hospitality is all an evolution. Will there be more video chat and maybe webinars and maybe hybrid meetings than there were before? Sure. It's an evolution, right? We used to do a lot of training in our hotels throughout the country. We do very little training anymore because you can do it online more efficiently. And businesses are choosing to say, putting people on planes and having them get together, in many cases for people at a certain level, hey, that's not worth it. So I think these things evolve. But I think in general, Omar, we were there at a certain point because that's what the customer wanted. And I think that's still what they will want. So I don't think, one of the things we're doing at our properties as demand comes back is saying, look, we may have to reopen something and lose some money for a little while, but it's part of the experience that we're selling. It's part of the brand, whether it's a brand of one or a brand of 5. It's part of the boutique experience or the lifestyle experience. And we can't, if we revert into this and stay in this select service model, then we should expect to get select service rates. And that'll be the end of the industry. And I don't think that's what our customers want. They've sought us out for a reason, right? I like to say they come to boutique hotels or lifestyle hotels because they're more interested in an experience than points. And because God knows the brand experience is not as good as the boutique experience, the lifestyle experience. It's also why all the brands, the major brands have been getting into that end of the business to compete with independent hotels. And so I think it all comes back. This of course assumes that we conquer this virus one way or another. People want to get together. They want unique experiences. They want to be pleasantly surprised. I really like negative surprises, but they like, positive surprises. They like the personal touch. And I think that will come back. Just like, I run a business of 55 people. Our people aren't going to work from home. It's not the business we're in. It's not. Could we have a business like that? Sure. Are those the kind of people we want? We want people. We're in the hospitality business. And so we feel the need for them to come back, be a part of the culture, have the casual conversations, collaborate, ideate, do all these things that you can't really do over Zoom. Or not do very well over Zoom. So I think we go back to where we were. I think our industry needs to go back to where we were. One of the things we've been doing, adapting, and again, this was something we started doing several years ago, but we've been building it out even more quickly over the last year, is we're using outdoor spaces to a much greater extent. We're converting patios to 4-season space, indoor, outdoor. We're landscaping a lot more areas where people can have outdoor meetings. We're tenting. We're creating more flexibility in our restaurants. So one of the things that we've learned, and we see this in the more typical hotels we have, a Westin that we have as an example. Try getting a bride to have a wedding in a Westin. Now we have a few, but people want an experience for their wedding. They want pictures that are memorable. They want something unique, right? They want to wow their family and friends. And so we've figured out, and where we've been going is taking our restaurants and making them flexible from an event perspective. So they're large enough that we can both deliver the service for our hotel guests, but pull off a whole big piece of it and say, this is going to be for events, whether it's weddings or it's bar mitzvahs or it's business entertainment, whatever it might be, but trying to create more flexibility in the space, because what people want is an experience. And frankly, most independent restaurants in particular, you can do a pretty nice design experience that is obviously atypical to a meeting room. So back to your question in a broader way, I think it means we have to provide even more experiences, not less, at our properties.
As someone that has a background in luxury hotels, I totally appreciate that point of view. I think I could talk to you for hours, but I pretty much have enough time here for maybe 2 questions. So I'm going to link them together because I think they touch on a couple of things that we've been kind of hinting at. And I think the first one is as you think about what's happened between brands and non-branded hotels, and you have to throw in the whole element of Autograph and all those other kind of players that are soft brands, right, into the mix. It's clear that performance has benefited over the course of COVID. The non-branded hotels have done better, and obviously things like resorts have performed incredibly well too. But this is a trend that has been kind of exacerbated by COVID. Is that something that you see as being a more permanent trend, or do you see that kind of narrowing back and heading back in the other direction?
No, well, I think it's a permanent, I think it's a long-term trend, and I think it's a secular trend that isn't just in our industry, it's in lots of industries. You know, the idea of more experiential, experiential driving, experiential activities, experiential hotel stays, you know, that's what people, I think, more and more are looking for. We identified, I don't know, it's probably 15 years ago when we kind of began to get into this boutique independent lifestyle, whatever you want to call it anymore. It gets abused, it gets used and abused, but you know what the trend we identified was, we think the long-term trend is that people are less interested in collecting things and more interested in collecting experiences. And social media has had a big role in that, because as we all know, I mean, I see people all the time, I'm not one of them, but you know, you sit in a restaurant and you see people taking pictures of their meal. When the heck did anybody do that before social media? So it immediately goes up on their Facebook or Twitter or Instagram or whatever it might be. People are sharing experiences. I've seen documentaries, they talk about people actually aren't experiencing their travel anymore because they're just taking pictures the whole time so that they can share their experience, even though maybe they didn't have the experience. Their experience was taking a picture for 4 days. But I think the whole experiential thing is a secular trend. And I think that's what the major brands have recognized. That's why they're building these collection brands, trying to attract many independents. I mean, part of why we created the Curator Hotel and Resort Collection was because we want to give independent hotels, boutique hotels, a fair chance on an economic basis, where you know, the thing we found, and we have both, right? We have everything. We have big box hotels that are branded. We have franchised ones. We have all those collection brands that are of the major brands. We have W, Luxury Collection, Autograph Collection. And then we have lots of small brands and independent hotels. And we have our own little brand we call the Unofficial Z Collection. But to give we found that most product and services in our industries cost more the smaller you are. And so what does it do? It sort of forces you to look at the overall economics and say, you know what, I really don't want to be part of a major brand, but gosh, I don't have a choice, right? Because they can save me a bunch of money. And yeah, they charge me a lot of fees, but maybe the net is better. And I have, perhaps you view it and say, maybe I have lower risk. I think the customer can tell the difference between truly independent properties and these collection brands. Not all the customers, but many can. And I think, you know, we are at a little crossroads of risk where sort of the idea of, I mean, we see it in the verbiage, right? That they all have lifestyle or boutique brands. And I got a 1,000-room hotel and it's a boutique. I mean, it's getting bastardized, right? Why? Because that is what the customer's looking for. And so I think it is incumbent upon us as an industry and those of us who own and operate these hotels to continue to be creative. We can move much faster than the major brands can. And the customers' interests change and we can change quickly. And that's a big advantage that we have, because to change 200 hotels that you don't even own as a major brand can take 10 years to do it. So I think, you know, there's a big threat in the industry. I think with the consolidation of the major brands, I mean, Marriott has 31 brands. Hilton has 20 some at this point. As an owner, and again, we have all of them. So we're about 50-50 in EBITDA between major brands and independents. We look at it and say, hey, we like when we have all the control. We can change when the customer changes. We can define what we believe the customer wants. So I always use this analogy or comment about, you know, your idea, Omar, of luxury, and particularly from your background, might be very different than my idea of luxury. Then it's different than Ariella's idea of luxury. For me, luxury could just be convenience, right? I don't want to stop at the front desk. I'm traveling 200 days a year. I don't want to have perhaps a meaningless conversation with somebody at the front desk after I've been flying for 4 hours and stuck in traffic or whatever it might be. So, and our customer base may be that customer base. So I can deliver the services in our own hotel that we believe the customer wants, and not one driven by a need to standardize across a broad base of property types, markets, maybe even countries around the world. Well, I'm sorry, that's why you knew you only had 2 questions, because my answers are really long. You want to do some yes and no questions?
I'd love to do that. Ariel, I think we're up on time here, but I could keep going, but you got to play the Oscar music here and kind of run me off the stage here.
Wait, do you know we used to actually do that though at our in-person conferences? Like the music would just slowly become louder, louder. This was amazing. John, we were taking so many notes, especially on that last question. I think we may have to bring you back just to go more into that last question, because we have a very similar mindset as an industry, as an association industry too. But thank you both so much. John, Omar, it's always amazing to have you guys on our stage. I just have a couple of last slides before we end today's webinar. So did you like what John said? Was that interesting to you? We're gonna have so much content, really heavy hitting on boutique hotel investment, June 2nd to 3rd, BLLAevents.com if you wanna join us. And again, thank you to our sponsors, World Cinema, as well as Lutron Electronics. And if you have questions, me and Fran, I think many of you know she's also mom. We always love to chat with you if you have any questions about attending or participating. We're always here. And with that, thank you, everyone. We'll see you June 2nd for the conference. Bye, guys.
Thanks so much. Thanks, Omar.
Bye.
Thank you,
Well
John.
done.
Thank you.